The coffee was cold again, stared at the dark liquid in her metal cup and sighed. She had poured it 20 minutes ago, but the observation deck was always freezing. The massive window showed nothing but stars and the dark emptiness of space. Station 9 floated somewhere between three solar systems, far from any planet. Was 22 years old and had been at the Interstellar Military Academy for almost 3 years. She was not the best student. Her combat scores were average. Her shooting skills were below average. Even her physical training results made the instructors shake their heads, but she did not care much about those things, like studying creatures. Alien biology fascinated her more than weapons or tactics. The academy trained soldiers from 47 different species. Some students were huge, nearly 10 feet tall with thick armor-like skin. Others could fly or breathe fire or lift objects with their minds. Humans were considered weak by most standards. They could not do anything special. They were not the fastest, not the strongest, they were just humans. Took another sip of her cold coffee and looked at the containment pod in front of her. It was a clear cylinder filled with a strange mist. Inside, something moved. The movement was hard to see, like watching smoke shift in the wind. Sometimes she saw what looked like eyes. Sometimes she saw nothing at all. She called it Ash. 3 weeks ago had gone on a field mission to planet Threshold. It was supposed to be a simple research trip. The planet was dead, abandoned centuries ago by a civilization no one remembered. The ground was gray dust. The sky was always dark. Nothing grew there, nothing lived there. But had found Ash. She had been collecting soil samples near an old ruin when she felt something watching her. Not with eyes exactly. It was more like a pressure in her mind, a feeling of being seen by something that existed in a way she could not understand. Most people would have run, had sat down and opened her thermos. "Want some coffee?" she had said to the empty air. The shadows had moved. Something had emerged from between the ruins, flickering in and out of sight. It looked like it was in pain, fatting away, dying. Had poured coffee into the cap of her thermos and set it on the ground. Then she waited. The creature had come closer. It had touched the coffee with something that might have been a limb or might have been pure darkness. Then it had looked at her with eyes that appeared and disappeared, had smiled and kept drinking her coffee, talking quietly about nothing important. When the transport ship came to pick her up 6 hours later, Ash had followed her aboard. Now he lived in the containment pod in the observation deck. The Academy's xenobiology department was fascinated and terrified. They had never seen anything like Ash. Their scanners could not properly read him. Sometimes he showed up as solid matter. Sometimes he showed up as energy. Sometimes the scanners showed nothing at all, even though everyone could see him moving in the pod. Still watching that thing. Turned. Her roommate Bora stood in the doorway, dressed in combat training gear. Bora was everything was not. She was top of the class in weapons training, fast and strong and confident. Her arms were muscular, her posture was perfect, and she never seemed to doubt herself. "Just checking on him," said. Bora walked closer, staring at the pod with obvious distrust. "I do not understand why they let you keep it. That thing is dangerous." "He is not dangerous." "You do not know that. No one knows what it is." Bora crossed her arms. "The instructors are talking. They say you brought back something that should have stayed dead." Took another sip of coffee and did not respond. She knew people talked about her. The quiet human girl who befriended a shadow creature. Some students avoided her now. Others whispered when she walked past. Even some instructors looked at her differently. The door opened again. This time it was Wu, a male student from the engineering program. He was short and round-faced, always smiling. He carried a tablet and a bag of snacks. "There you are," Wu said cheerfully. "I have been looking everywhere. You missed lunch again." "I was not hungry," said. "You are never hungry." Wu sat down next to her and offered the bag of snacks. "You need to eat something besides coffee." Bora rolled her eyes. "I am going to training. Try not to let your shadow monster escape and eat anyone." She left without waiting for a response. Wu watched her go, then looked at, "She is worried about you. Everyone is." "I know. Is it true what they are saying about the hunters?" His grip on her coffee cup tightened slightly. "What are they saying?" Wu glanced around to make sure they were alone. Some security cadets heard rumors, hunters operating near the station. You know what are like. They collect rare creatures, illegal trophy hunting. Someone said they might have detected Ash. Inside the pod, the shadows swirled faster, noticed but said nothing. "That is just a rumor," she said quietly. "Maybe." Wu did not sound convinced. "But you should be careful, are dangerous. They do not care about academy rules or interstellar law. If they want something, they take it." Before could respond, instructor entered the observation deck. He was a tall human man with gray hair and a stern face. He had been teaching combat tactics for 15 years and rarely smiled. But he had always been fair too, even when her scores were low. "Cadet," he said formally, "a word please." Wu quickly stood up and left, leaving alone with the instructor. Walked to the containment pod and stared at it for a long moment. "I have been speaking with the Academy Board," he said. "They are concerned about your companion. Ash has not hurt anyone." "Not yet," turned to face her. "But we do not understand what it is. Our best scientists cannot classify it. It does not match any known species in the galactic database. Some of the alien delegates are demanding it be destroyed or removed from the station." Felt something cold settle in her chest. They cannot do that. "They can, and they might." His expression softened slightly. "I am trying to prevent that. I told them you have shown excellent control and responsibility, but you need to be careful, Cadet. Keep it contained. Do not give them any reason to act." He started to leave, then paused at the door. "There is something else. Security detected an unauthorized ship near the station 2 days ago. It left before we could identify it, but—" he looked back at the pod. "Whatever you brought back from Threshold, others might want it too. Stay alert." After he left, sat in silence. She finished her cold coffee and stared at Ash. The creature had settled down, barely visible in the mist, but she could feel him, not physically but in her mind. A presence, watching, waiting. "It will be okay," she whispered to him. "I will not let anyone hurt you." The shadows shifted, almost like a nod. Outside the window, the stars remained cold and distant, and somewhere in that darkness, something was coming. The alarm did not sound. That was the first strange thing noticed when she woke up at 300 hours. Station 9 always had sounds. The hum of life support, the beep of security systems, the distant voices of night shift workers. But now the corridors outside her room were completely silent. She sat up in her bed and reached for her thermos on the nightstand. Bora's bed was empty. Her roommate had night training exercises this week. Poured herself some coffee and listened to the silence. Something was wrong. She dressed quickly in her academy uniform and stepped into the corridor. The lights were dimmer than usual. Emergency lighting, she realized. The main power grid was down in this section. Her hand moved to her communication device, but when she pressed it, nothing happened. Communications were dead too. Walked quickly toward the xenobiology lab. If something was happening on the station, she needed to check on Ash. The corridors were empty, which was unusual even for the middle of the night. Her footsteps echoed too loudly in the silence. She reached the lab and pressed her hand to the security panel. The door slid open. Inside, everything looked normal at first. The equipment hummed softly. The lights were on. But Ash's containment pod was in the corner, and through the clear walls she could see him moving restlessly, faster than usual. "What is wrong?" she asked quietly, moving toward the pod. The answer came from behind her. "Step away from the creature, human." Turned slowly. 4 figures stood in the doorway. They were tall, nearly 8 feet each, with scales that looked like green metal. Their eyes were yellow and reptilian with vertical pupils. Hunters. She recognized them from her xenobiology studies. They were infamous across the galaxy as illegal trophy collectors who hunted rare and dangerous creatures. The leader stepped forward. His scales were darker than the others from countless hunts. He carried a weapon that looked like a rifle but with strange purple energy coils. "My name is," he said. His voice was rough like rocks grinding together. "We are here for the void. You will hand it over or we will take it from you." Stood very still. Her heart was beating fast but her hands were steady. "He is not a void and I will not give him to you." One of the other hunters laughed. "The human thinks she can stop us. This will be entertaining." Raised his weapon and pointed it at her. "We disabled your station's security systems in this sector. No one is coming to help you. No alarms will sound. You are alone, little cadet. Be smart. Walk away." Looked at each of the 4 hunters. They were armed, professional, deadly. She was one human with no weapon and no combat training. Anyone else would have run or surrendered. Instead, walked to her workstation and sat down in her chair. She placed her thermos on the desk and carefully poured herself a cup of coffee. The hunters watched her with confusion. "What are you doing?" demanded. Took a sip of coffee. It was still warm. "He does not like strangers." "What?" "Ash, my companion. He does not like people he does not know." She took another sip, completely calm. "You should leave." His reptilian face twisted in what might have been anger or amusement. "The human is insane. Vex, break the containment pod. Let us collect our prize and go." One of the hunters moved toward the pod. He raised a heavy tool designed to crack through reinforced glass. Ash inside the pod went completely still. Then the lights flickered. The temperature in the lab dropped so fast that could see her breath. Her coffee steamed in the suddenly freezing air. The hunters noticed it too. They looked around, their weapons raised, searching for the threat. "Sir," one of them said nervously, "the containment pod, it is empty." Everyone looked. The clear cylinder that had held Ash was now filled only with mist. The creature was gone. "Find it," shouted. "It must be in this room." The shadows on the walls began to move. At first it was subtle, a darkness that shifted when it should have been still. Then it became obvious. The shadows were crawling across the walls, the floor, the ceiling, moving independent of any light source. They gathered in the corners, growing thicker, deeper, darker. The youngest hunter, the one who had laughed at, fired his weapon at a shadow. The energy blast hit the wall and exploded, leaving a scorch mark. The shadow was unharmed. In fact, it moved faster, flowing across the floor toward him. "It is here," said, "formation back to back." The 4 hunters formed a tight circle, weapons pointed outward. Continued to drink her coffee, watching calmly. She could feel Ash now, could sense his presence filling the room like cold water. "What is wrong with you?" one of the hunters shouted at her. "Why are you not afraid?" "I am not in danger," said simply. The shadows rose from the floor like smoke, forming a shape between the hunters, and it was hard to look at directly. The creature that appeared was not fully solid. Parts of it seemed to exist in multiple places at once. Eyes opened and closed across its form, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They were not normal eyes. They saw things that should not be seen. Stared at the creature and his weapon shook in his hands. "That is not a void. Void went extinct 5,000 years ago because..." His voice trailed off in horror. "Because of that." "Fire!" another hunter screamed. All 4 of them fired their weapons at once. Energy blasts and projectiles filled the air. The sound was deafening. Smoke filled the lab. When it cleared, Ash was completely unharmed. The bullets and energy had passed through him like he was not there, or they had been absorbed into his darkness and disappeared. It was impossible to tell which. The creature tilted what might have been a head and looked at the hunters with too many eyes. Then he moved. Ash flowed across the floor faster than anything that size should move. He reached the first hunter, the one who had tried to break his pod. The tried to run, but Ash was already around him, surrounding him, entering him. The hunter's scream was cut off instantly. His body went rigid. Then black smoke began pouring from his mouth, his eyes, his scales. When Ash pulled away, the hunter collapsed. He was still alive, but his eyes were empty, his mind broken by whatever he had seen inside that darkness. The second hunter ran for the door. He made it 3 steps before Ash appeared in front of him. Not moved there, appeared. Like he had always been there and the hunter had run toward him instead of away. The hunter froze, staring at the creature that the laws of space and distance. Ash touched him gently, almost curiously. The hunter's armor cracked like glass. His weapon fell apart into pieces. He stumbled backward, unharmed physically but making small whimpering sounds. The third hunter was smarter. He dropped his weapon and held up his hands. "Please," he said, "please, we will leave, we will go, just let us leave." Ash paused. He turned those countless eyes toward, as if asking a question. Took another sip of coffee. "They hurt," she said quietly. "I found him unconscious in the corridor outside." Was a security cadet, a friend who studied late at night in the same sections as. He must have tried to stop the hunters when they infiltrated the station. Ash turned back to the third hunter. The creature expanded, growing larger, filling the room with darkness and cold and the feeling of falling into endless nothing. The hunter screamed. Only remained standing. The leader of the hunters was shaking, his weapon pointed at Ash, but he did not fire. He stared at instead. "You are not a normal human," he said. "Normal humans fear death. You sit there drinking your beverage while a nightmare kills my team." "He is not killing them," corrected, "just teaching them not to come back." "What is it? What did you find on threshold?" Stood up from her chair. Ash immediately flowed toward her, wrapping around her legs and shoulders like a protective cloak of living shadow. She walked toward, completely unafraid. The hunter backed away. "His name is Ash," said, "and he is my friend." "Friends do not do this," gasped, gesturing at his broken team. "Friends protect each other." Stopped a few feet from him. "You came to hurt him, to take him away, to sell him. What did you expect?" The door suddenly burst open. Bora rushed in, followed by several other cadets and a security team. They stopped instantly, staring at the scene. The unconscious hunters, the broken equipment, the impossible creature wrapped around, and herself holding a coffee cup, completely calm. What happened here?" Bora whispered. Looked at her roommate and shrugged. "They tried to take Ash," he disagreed. She walked back to her desk and picked up her thermos. "The coffee is still hot," she offered. "Anyone want a cup?" No one answered, they just stared. The only hunter still conscious and able to walk stumbled toward the door. The security team grabbed him. As they dragged him away, he kept looking back at Ash with pure terror in his yellow eyes. "She is not human," he kept saying. "She cannot be human. No human could sit and drink coffee while. The door closed, cutting off his words. Sat back down and poured herself more coffee. Around her, the cadets and security team stood in shocked silence. None of them knew what to say. Ash settled on the floor beside her chair like a loyal dog. Except dogs did not have eyes that saw between dimensions. Dogs did not break minds just by touching them. Bora finally found her voice. Are you okay?" Nodded and took a sip. "I am fine, the coffee is good today. I added cinnamon." Outside, alarms finally started blaring as the station's security systems came back online. But in the xenobiology lab, everything was quiet except for the soft sound of drinking her coffee and the almost imperceptible breathing of something that should not exist. The xenobiology lab looked like a battlefield. Security teams swarmed through the room, taking pictures and measurements. Medical staff carried away the unconscious hunters on stretchers. Instructors shouted orders while cadets whispered to each other in the corridors outside. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. Everyone wanted to see the creature that had defeated 4 professional hunters. Sat in her chair and watched it all happen. Her coffee had gone cold again. Ash remained beside her, barely visible now, just a faint shadow that moved when nothing else did. He seemed smaller than before, tired maybe, but still alert, still watching. Instructor pushed through the crowd and stopped in front of her desk. His stern face looked exhausted. "Cadet, are you injured?" "No, sir." "Did the hunters threaten you?" "Yes, sir." "Did you release your creature from containment?" Paused. "No, sir." He released himself. Looked at the empty containment pod, then at the scorch marks on the walls, then at the dried blood on the floor where one hunter had fallen. His jaw tightened. "The board is convening an emergency meeting. You are to remain here under guard until they decide what to do." "Am I under arrest?" "That depends on what the board concludes." Leaned closer and lowered his voice. "I tried to protect you. I told them you were responsible and careful. But 4 hunters infiltrated a military academy and were defeated by a creature that no one understands. The alien delegates are terrified. Some are demanding you and your creature be removed from the station immediately." "Where would we go?" "I do not know, prison maybe, or a research facility." He looked genuinely concerned. "I will do what I can, but you need to prepare yourself. This situation is serious." He left to coordinate with the other instructors. Looked down at Ash, who had curled around the legs of her chair like smoke. "We might be in trouble," she told him quietly. The shadow rippled, which she had learned meant he understood. Bora appeared in the doorway. Her combat training uniform was dirty and torn. She must have sprinted across the station when she heard about the attack. She walked over slowly, keeping her distance from Ash. "You should have called for help," Bora said. "Communications were down." "You should have run." "They would have taken Ash." Bora sat down on the edge of the desk, still watching the shadow creature warily. "I do not understand you. Any normal person would be terrified. You just sat here drinking coffee while that thing—" She gestured at Ash but could not seem to find the right words. "While he protected me," finished. "He killed people." "He did not kill anyone. The hunters are all alive, traumatized but alive." Poured fresh coffee from a new thermos that someone had brought her. "Ash could have killed them easily. He chose not to." "Why?" "Because I would not want him to." Bora shook her head. "The other species are right. Humans are strange. Any other race would either kill a creature like that or worship it. Only humans would befriend it and drink coffee with it." Wu burst into the room out of breath. His round face was flushed with excitement and worry. "I heard what happened. Are you okay? Is Ash okay? Did you really sit there calmly while those hunters attacked?" "I am fine, Ash is fine, and yes, I did." "That is incredible." Wu pulled out his tablet. "I have been researching. I think I know what Ash is. Look at this." He showed her the screen. It displayed an old text written in a language did not recognize, but the tablet translated it. The text described creatures called null shades, entities that existed partially outside normal space. They were supposed to be extinct, killed off in a war thousands of years ago. According to this, null shades were apex predators, Wu explained. They hunted by existing in multiple places at once, by moving through dimensions that other creatures could not perceive. Entire civilizations were destroyed trying to fight them. "Then why did they go extinct?" Bora asked. "They did not reproduce fast enough, and they required enormous amounts of energy to survive. Most starved when they ran out of prey." Wu looked at Ash with new respect. "But the really interesting part is this. The old texts say null shades never attacked randomly. They chose companions, other creatures they bonded with and protected. No one knows why." Sipped her coffee. "Maybe they got lonely." "Maybe," Wu said. But the point is, if Ash is really a null shade, then he chose you. That is not something that happens by accident. The door opened again. This time it was a security officer did not recognize. Cadet, you are requested to come with me. The board is ready to see you. Stood up, Ash immediately rose with her, the shadows gathering close. You cannot bring that, the officer said nervously. He goes where I go. Those are not the rules. Instructor appeared behind the officer. Let her bring it. The board wants to see both of them anyway. They walked through the corridors of Station 9. Every student and staff member they passed stopped to stare. Some looked curious. Some looked afraid, kept her eyes forward and her hands steady on her coffee thermos. Ash flowed beside her like a living shadow, sometimes visible, sometimes not. The board meeting room was large and circular. Representatives from different species sat around a curved table, recognized some of them. The ambassador, the same species as the hunters, the tall, crystalline, the floating energy beings called lumens, and several others she had only seen in textbooks. In the center of the room stood a human male she did not know. He was middle-aged with sharp eyes and expensive clothing. He looked at her with an expression that might have been contempt. "This is the cadet?" he asked. "Yes," said, "this is Cadet." The man walked around her slowly, examining her like she was a curiosity. "I am Arbiter from Earth's diplomatic corps. I have been sent to investigate this incident," he pointed at Ash, "and to evaluate whether that creature poses a threat to interstellar peace." "He does not," said. 4 hunters were hospitalized with severe psychological trauma. 2 may never recover. The station's security systems were compromised. Delegates from 3 different species are threatening to withdraw their students from the academy. His voice was cold. "You call that not a threat?" "The hunters attacked first. They disabled security. They threatened me. Ash defended me." The ambassador stood up. He was massive, nearly 9 feet tall, with scales that gleamed like emeralds. "Lies. Those hunters were criminals, yes, but they would not have been there if not for that abomination. The human brought a monster onto this station and endangered everyone." "Ash has never hurt anyone who did not attack first," said calmly. "Yet," the ambassador roared. "It has not hurt anyone yet, but what happens when it decides to hunt? What happens when it gets hungry? Null shades are extinct for a reason. They are too dangerous to exist." Other delegates nodded in agreement. The representative, a being made of living crystal, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "The human cannot control such a creature. It should be contained in a secure facility or destroyed." "You cannot destroy him," said, her voice harder now. "We can try," Arbiter said, "and we will if necessary, for the safety of everyone on this station." Ash had been still this entire time, but now he moved. The shadows expanded, spreading across the floor, crawling up the walls. The temperature dropped. The lights flickered. Several delegates gasped and drew back. Did not move. She stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the living darkness, completely unafraid. "You are scaring him. Stop threatening him." "Control your creature," shouted. "He is not out of control. He is showing you what he can do if he chooses to." Looked around at all the frightened faces, alien and human alike. "You think you can contain him. You think you can destroy him." The hunters had military weapons and years of experience. They could not even touch him. What makes you think you will do better? The Lumens delegate, a floating sphere of light, pulsed with different colors. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "The human speaks truth. We analyzed the security footage. The creature exists partially outside our dimension. Our weapons would be useless. Containment would be impossible." "Then what do we do?" demanded. "Let her walk around with a living weapon. Hope it stays friendly." "He is not a weapon," said. "He is my friend." "Friends can turn on you." "Not Ash, he chose me. I chose him, that means something." Instructor stepped forward. "If I may speak, Cadet has shown remarkable responsibility with her companion. The creature has only acted defensively. It has never initiated violence. And according to our research, null shades bond for life with their chosen companions. They do not betray that bond. How can we be sure? The ambassador demanded. How can we be sure of anything? Replied. We trust students with weapons, with spacecraft, with knowledge that could be used for harm. We trust because we must, because trust is what holds civilizations together. The room fell silent. Delegates looked at each other. Some seemed to be reconsidering. Others still looked hostile. Finally, the Lumens delegate spoke again. We propose a compromise. The human and her companion will be placed under observation. If the creature shows any sign of aggression not in self-defense, it will be removed. If not, they may remain at the academy under strict supervision. That is acceptable, said looking at. Did not answer immediately. She looked down at Ash, who had pulled close to her again. She could feel his presence in her mind, questioning, worried. Will they hurt him? She asked. Not if he behaves, said coldly. Then we accept. The shadows slowly receded. The temperature rose back to normal. The delegates relaxed slightly, though many still watched Ash with obvious fear. As left the room with and her companions, she heard the ambassador speaking to another delegate. This is not over. Humans have brought something dangerous into our space, something we do not understand. This will not end well. Did not look back. She walked through the corridors with Ash beside her, Wu and Bora following close behind. She poured herself more coffee and tried not to think about what would happen if Ash ever lost control. But deep down she knew he would not, because they had chosen each other, and that choice meant everything. 3 days after the attack, Arbiter arrived at Station 9. He was different from Arbiter, where was cold and political, was stern but fair. He was an older man with gray hair cut short and eyes that saw everything. He had served in the human military for 30 years before becoming an investigator for Galactic Command. People respected him because he did not take sides. He only cared about truth. Met him in a small conference room. Ash was with her, as always. The creature had become more visible lately, as if he wanted everyone to see him clearly. He looked like smoke shaped into something almost animal-like, with those countless eyes that opened and closed across his form. Sat down across from her and poured himself water from a pitcher on the table. He did not seem bothered by Ash's presence. Cadet, he said, I have read all the reports. I have watched the security footage. I have interviewed the hunters, though 2 of them still cannot speak properly. I have one question before we begin the formal inquiry. Yes, sir. Why coffee? Blinked surprised. What? You always have coffee with you. When the hunters attacked, you sat down and poured coffee. When you met with the board, you brought coffee. Even now, you have a thermos on the table. Leaned forward slightly. Why? Thought about it. Coffee is warm. It is familiar. It reminds me that even in strange places with strange things happening, some things stay the same. It helps me think clearly. And you shared it with Ash when you first met him. Yes, sir. Nodded slowly. That tells me something important about you. You met a creature that exists outside normal reality that most people cannot even look at without fear, and your first instinct was to offer it something warm and kind. He made a note on his tablet. The board thinks you are reckless. I think you are something else entirely. The formal inquiry began an hour later. The room was larger this time, with more delegates and officials. Representatives from 12 different species sat in tiered seating, all watching and Ash. Arbiter was there too, looking confident and cold. Instructor sat to one side, ready to testify on her behalf. But the most important person was Arbiter, who stood at the front of the room with his tablet and his unwavering gaze. We are here to determine 3 things, announced. First, whether Cadet acted appropriately during the Hunter attack. Second, whether her companion poses a danger to the station and its inhabitants. Third, whether humans should be restricted from bonding with extra-dimensional entities in the future. That last part made sit up. This was not just about her and Ash. This was about all humans. Arbiter spoke first. He was the prosecutor, the one trying to prove had done something wrong. He presented evidence with practiced precision. Images of the destroyed lab, medical reports of the traumatized hunters, testimony from alien delegates who feared what Ash represented. "The facts are clear," said, his voice carrying through the room. Cadet brought an unclassified and dangerous creature onto a military station. She failed to properly contain it. When the creature escaped and attacked 4 individuals, she did nothing to stop it. 4 beings were severely injured and the station's security was compromised. This is negligence at best and at worst. He paused for effect. Humanity has always been the weakest species in the galactic community. We have no natural weapons, no special abilities, but now we have found a way to be dangerous. We are bonding with creatures that other species cannot control or even understand. This sets a dangerous precedent. If we allow this to continue, humans will become a threat to interstellar peace. Several alien delegates nodded in agreement, felt her hands clench under the table. Ash moved closer to her, sensing her distress. Then it was time for her defense. Instructor stood first. "I have known Cadet for 3 years. She is not the strongest student. She is not the fastest or the best fighter, but she has something more valuable than physical strength. She has empathy. She sees potential in creatures that others fear. She forms bonds based on trust and mutual respect." He gestured toward Ash. That creature could have killed the hunters easily. Instead, it defended Cadet with minimal force. It showed restraint. That is not the behavior of a mindless weapon. That is the behavior of an intelligent being that understands consequences. Wu next. He was nervous, his hands shaking slightly, but his voice was steady. "I have studied the old texts about null shades. They are not evil. They are predators, yes, but so are many species we accept without question. The difference is that null shades choose their companions carefully. They bond for life. Ash chose because he recognized something in her. Kindness, maybe. Understanding. Whatever it was, that choice means something." Bora was called to testify, and everyone was surprised when she spoke in his favor. "I did not like that creature at first," Bora admitted. "I thought it was dangerous and that was foolish, but I was wrong." She looked directly at. "During the attack, Ash could have hurt everyone in that room. When we arrived, he was in a defensive position around. He did not threaten us. He did not attack. He simply protected his companion and waited for the danger to pass. That shows intelligence and control." Finally, it was turn to speak. She stood up, Ash flowing beside her like a living shadow. Every eye in the room was on her. She felt the weight of their judgment, their fear, their curiosity. She took a breath and spoke clearly. "I did not create Ash. I did not train him. I did not seek him out to use as a weapon." Her voice was steady. "I found him on planet Threshold. He was dying, fatting, lost between dimensions with no one to help him. I could have walked away. But I sat down and I shared my coffee with him. I talked to him. I stayed with him." She paused, looking at Ash. "He chose to bond with me, not because I am strong or special, but because when he was alone and dying, I offered him friendship. And when I was in danger, he protected me. Is not that what any companion would do, what any friend would do?" Arbiter stood up. "You make it sound noble, but you are asking us to accept that humans can control creatures that destroyed civilizations. That is not friendship. That is a security threat." "I am not asking you to accept anything," replied. "I am telling you what happened. Ash is not controlled. He is bonded. There is a difference. Control means forcing someone to obey. Bonding means choosing to trust each other." The Lumen's delegate, the floating sphere of light, spoke from its position. "The human makes a valid point. In our culture, bonding with energy beings is considered sacred. It is not about control but about mutual understanding. Perhaps humans have discovered something similar. Or perhaps humans are dangerous in ways we have not seen before, the ambassador countered. Then Arbiter spoke, his voice cut through the arguing like a blade. I have discovered something during my investigation, something the board needs to know. He pulled up files on the main screen. In the past 2 years, there have been 37 documented cases of humans bonding with creatures classified as extra-dimensional, impossible, or thought to be extinct. The room went silent. 37, said shocked. That is not possible. It is not only possible, it is happening. Displayed images. Saw other humans, other creatures. A young woman standing next to something made of crystal and light. A man with what looked like a swarm of insects that moved as one. A teenager holding hands with a being made entirely of energy. All of them occurred after human cadets went on field missions to abandoned or restricted planets, continued. All of them resulted in bonds between humans and creatures that other species cannot interact with safely. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern. What does it mean? The delegate asked. It means humans have a unique neurological or psychological trait that allows them to bond with entities that exist partially outside normal reality. We do not know why. We do not know how, but the evidence is clear. Looked directly at the assembly. The question is not whether we should prevent this. The question is whether we can. These bonds are forming naturally. Humans are not seeking these creatures deliberately. They are encountering them and forming connections based on something we do not yet understand. Then humans are a threat, insisted. Or humans are an opportunity, countered. These extra-dimensional beings exist whether we acknowledge them or not. They are dangerous when alone and unconnected, but bonded with humans, they show restraint and cooperation. Perhaps humans are not the threat. Perhaps they are the solution. The debate continued for hours. Arguments went back and forth. Delegates shouted and pleaded and demanded. Sat through it all, drinking her coffee, feeling Ash's presence beside her. Finally, Arbiter called for a vote. We will decide 3 things, he said. First, is Cadet guilty of negligence or wrongdoing? Second, should Ash be removed or destroyed? Third, should humans be allowed to continue bonding with extra-dimensional entities? The votes were cast electronically. Watch the numbers appear on the screen. First vote, not guilty. The majority agreed that it acted in self-defense. Second vote, Ash would remain under supervision. Close vote, but it passed. Third vote, humans would be allowed to continue bonding, but a new program would be created to study and monitor these relationships. Felt relief flood through her. Beside her, Ash seemed to relax, his form becoming less dense, less threatening. Arbiter approached her after the assembly ended. You were fortunate, Cadet. Many delegates still fear what you represent, but you gave them no reason to doubt your intentions. You and your companion showed restraint and control when it mattered most. Thank you, sir. Do not thank me yet. This is only the beginning. The Academy is creating a new program to study human bonding with extra-dimensional entities. You will be part of it. So will the other 37 humans we identified. You will be watched, tested, evaluated constantly. I understand. Smiled slightly. I suspect you will do fine. Anyone who offers coffee to a creature from beyond reality is probably capable of handling a little scrutiny. As left the room, she felt eyes on her from every direction. Some looked at her with fear, some with curiosity, some with respect. She had become something she never expected to be. She had become important. But as she walked through the corridors with Ash beside her and her coffee in hand, she realized nothing had really changed. She was still just, and Ash was still just Ash. Everything else was just noise. 2 months after the inquiry, everything changed. Station 9 now had a new section called the Extra-Dimensional Studies Wing. It was isolated from the main academy, with reinforced walls and specialized equipment. This was where humans who had bonded with impossible creatures came to train and learn. Walked through the wing's common area, coffee in hand as always. Ash flowed beside her, more comfortable now, less hidden. Other humans were there too, along with their companions. Sat near the window with a creature made of crystal. It looked like a being carved from pure diamond, constantly shifting and refracting light into rainbow patterns. When touched it, music seemed to fill the air, though no one could explain where the sound came from. Jin practiced combat forms in the training area. His companion was pure energy, a being of light and heat that moved like lightning. It could not hold solid form for long, but when it did, it burned bright enough to hurt the eyes. Sung stood in the corner talking quietly with his companion, which was not one creature but thousands. A swarm of small beings that moved as one, thought as one, existed as one mind in many bodies. They formed shapes and patterns in the air around him, speaking in a language made of movement. There were others too, 12 humans total who had been identified and brought to the academy. Each one had found something impossible. Each one had offered friendship to a creature that should not exist, and each one had been chosen in return. Instructor was now the director of this new program. He stood at the front of the common area, calling everyone to attention. "Good morning," he said. "Today we begin formal training. You are no longer just cadets. You are the first members of what Galactic Command is calling the Extra-Dimensional Response Unit. Some people are calling you something else, the Shade Corps." A few students smiled at the nickname. Did not. She disliked the military sound of it, but she understood why it was necessary. The galaxy needed to categorize them, to understand them, to make them fit into existing structures. "You will continue your regular academy training," continued. "But you will also learn to work with your companions in coordinated operations. The galaxy is watching us. Many species are still afraid. We need to show them that humans and their bonded companions can be trusted." Bora entered the room, now assigned as a liaison between the Shade Corps and regular military units. She had changed since the attack. She looked at and Ash with respect now instead of fear. "The first exercise will be a rescue simulation," Bora announced. "A mining facility on an asteroid needs evacuation. Hostile environmental conditions. Standard rescue teams cannot reach them in time. You will demonstrate how human companion bonds can solve problems that traditional methods cannot." The humans and their companions gathered in the simulation room. It was massive, with holographic projectors that could create realistic scenarios. The simulation began. Suddenly they were on an asteroid. The air was thin. Temperature fluctuated wildly. Radiation levels were dangerous. A mining facility in the distance was collapsing, with dozens of workers trapped inside. "Move out," ordered from the observation deck. Jin's energy companion went first, creating a path of light through the asteroid's unstable terrain. The light showed where it was safe to walk, where the ground would hold. Sung's swarm spread out, thousands of small beings moving through cracks and holes in the collapsed facility. They found the trapped workers and communicated their locations back to the group. Crystal Companion created a bridge, its body extending and hardening to allow people to cross a collapsed section. And Ash moved through dimensions, appearing inside the facility where traditional rescuers could not reach. He found workers trapped in sealed chambers and pulled them to safety by moving through the walls themselves. The simulation ended. All workers were rescued. Mission success. Observers from different species watched from above, could see some of them taking notes. Others looked impressed. A few still looked afraid. After the exercise, sat in the common area with the other members of the Shade Corps. Wu joined them, bringing food from the cafeteria. "That was incredible," he said excitedly. "Did you see the way Ash just moved through solid walls? And Jin's companion creating that light path? You are all amazing. We are just doing what feels natural, said quietly. Our companions have abilities. We help direct those abilities toward useful purposes. That is what scares the other species, Jin added. They see creatures that can ignore the laws of physics, paired with humans who can guide them. It looks like we are building an army. Are we? Sung asked. His swarm formed question marks in the air around him. I do not think so, said. We are just existing, learning, growing. The fact that others see that as threatening says more about them than us. Instructor approached their table. The Galactic Council wants to meet with you. They have questions about the bonding process. They want to understand how it works. I do not know how it works, admitted. It just happened. Then tell them that. Honesty is our best weapon right now. The meeting with the Galactic Council was held via holographic conference. 12 alien representatives appeared as projections around. Ash stayed close, his form more visible than usual, as if he wanted them to see him clearly. The questions came fast. How did you bond with the creature? I do not know. I offered it coffee and friendship. It accepted. Can you control it? I do not control Ash. We work together. What would happen if it decided to attack people? He would not. That is not who he is. How can you be certain? How can you be certain of anything? I trust him. He trusts me. That is enough. The council members looked at each other. Finally, one of them, a being made of flowing water held in a humanoid shape, spoke. You humans are strange. Every other species in the galaxy seeks power through strength, technology, or numbers. You seek power through friendship, through bonds with things that should not exist. It is unusual. Maybe unusual is not bad, suggested. Maybe, the water being agreed. But it is frightening. You must understand, Cadet. In the 10,000 years since species began traveling the stars, no one has done what humans are doing. You are changing the rules, and when rules change, people get scared. I am not trying to change anything. I am just living my life. That is exactly what makes it so significant. After the meeting ended, walked to the observation deck. It was her favorite place on the station, where she could see the stars and think clearly. Ash settled beside her, barely visible in the reflection of the window. Bora found her there an hour later. I heard the council meeting went well, Bora said. As well as could be expected. They are still afraid of you, of all of you. Bora sat down beside her. But some are starting to see the potential. A representative from the Empire said that humans might be the bridge between normal space and extra-dimensional space, that you could help us understand things we never could before. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is, Bora smiled slightly. But if anyone can handle it, you can. You sat and drank coffee while 4 hunters attacked you. You faced the Galactic Council without fear. You are stronger than you look. Shook her head. I am not strong, I just do not see the point in being afraid of things that have not happened yet. Ash is my friend. Whatever comes next, we will face it together. 3 months later, the Shade Corps was officially recognized by Galactic Command. Humans with extra-dimensional companions were given special status. They were not soldiers exactly, but they were not civilians either. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. More humans kept bonding with impossible creatures. The number grew from 37 to 53 to 78. Each one was different. Each one brought a new companion, that understanding. The other species watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. Some proposed restrictions. Some proposed alliances. Everyone had opinions, but did not care about politics or galactic debates. She cared about her studies, her friends, and her companion. She continued going to classes, drinking coffee, and learning about the creatures that existed in spaces between spaces. One day, instructor called the entire Shade Corps together. I have news, he said. Galactic Command is creating specialized missions for human companion pairs, situations where traditional forces cannot operate, dimensional anomalies, reality distortions, encounters with entities from outside our universe. They need people who can work with the impossible. So we are an army, Jin said. No, you are explorers, diplomats, problem solvers. Looked at each of them. You are the humans who befriend monsters, and that makes you the perfect people to meet whatever else is out there in the dark. Raised her hand. Will this be mandatory? No, you can refuse and continue your regular academy training. This is a choice. Everyone looked at each other. Then, one by one, they agreed. Not because they wanted to be heroes, not because they wanted fame or recognition, but because they had chosen companions that no one else could understand, and maybe that meant they were supposed to do things no one else could do. After the meeting, returned to the observation deck. Ash curled beside her as she poured coffee and watched the stars. "What do you think?" she asked him quietly. "Should we accept these missions?" The shadow rippled. She felt his response in her mind, not words exactly but feelings, curiosity, willingness, trust. "You are right," she said. "We found each other in the dark. Maybe we are meant to help others do the same." Far away, in a chamber where the Galactic Council met, alien representatives discussed the human situation. "Should we be concerned about these humans and their creatures?" one asked. "Very concerned," another replied. "They have befriended apex predators from dead dimensions. They form bonds with entities that our best scientists cannot even classify. They are changing everything we know about power and partnership. What should we do? Watch, learn, and hope they remain friendly. And if they do not?" Silence filled the chamber. Finally, one representative spoke. "Then the galaxy will learn what humans are truly capable of, and I suspect we will not like the answer." But did not know about these conversations. She did not know about the debates and the fears and the political maneuvering. She only knew that she had a friend who existed in impossible spaces, who had chosen her out of all the beings in the galaxy, who trusted her completely. She sipped her coffee and smiled at Ash. "They have no idea what else is out there waiting to be friends," she whispered. Ash's countless eyes opened and closed in what might have been agreement, or laughter, or both. In the darkness between stars, in the spaces where reality bent and broke, other creatures stirred. Creatures that had been alone for so long they had forgotten what companionship felt like. Creatures that were dangerous and powerful and lost. But somewhere in that darkness, they sensed something new. A species that did not run from the impossible. A species that offered coffee and conversation instead of fear. And slowly, carefully, those creatures began to move toward human space. Not to hunt. To find companions of their own. The age of human companion bonds had just begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.